Hi, it's great to be with you here today, and I'm excited about the opportunity to share my journey in science and faith. For me, it started out with my dad's backyard telescope. He would take us outside on clear, starry nights to look at the stars and the moon and the planets. And I have very fond memories of those experiences. And, growing up in a Christian home, it was always with the understanding that God was the source of all this wonder that we were observing in his creation. But I went to secular schools all the way from grade school through grad school. And I heard over and over again in my science classes that you might as well just leave your faith at the door because what we're going to be talking about in science will almost certainly contradict what you've heard at church. For me, even as a little kid, that didn't make sense. I thought, how can the truth about God's creation contradict who God is as a creator? It just didn't make sense to me. So that set me on a path at a pretty young age to try to figure out how science and faith really fit together. So I went to grad school at Stanford and got my master's in aeroastroengineering, got my Ph.D. in human factors and biomechanics. I did research at NASA Ames on spacesuit design, and I worked at Lockheed on the Hubble Space Telescope and the International Space Station programs. I also went through astronaut training while I was there. So I had a lot of really neat opportunities. More recently, I've been teaching at Azusa Pacific University, and at one point when I was teaching astronomy, I was asked to speak with some media outlets about possible evidence for gravity waves that Einstein had predicted, and ended up writing this op-ed article for CNN's website that went viral, which then led to a book contract to talk more about how science and faith fit together. And so since those experiences, I've had lots of opportunities to speak to various audiences across the country and even around the world on how science and faith fit together. And probably not surprisingly, many people seem to think that at first glance, science and faith are at odds with each other. But my perspective is similar to Francis Bacon and Galileo, who talked about God revealing himself in two books. On the one hand, scripture, and on the other hand, his creation or nature. And our job as humans is to figure out how those two books of God's revelation fit together. And in my view, the more you study these two books, the more you see how they actually fit together and there's no conflict. And so I'm looking forward to more conversations with you, and thanks for listening.